Hey, this is Mike from the Run Testers, and in this video we're going to be talking about these two shoes, the Adidas Prime X 2.0 Strung and the Asics Superblast 2, two max stack super trainer shoes that it's fair to say we are definitely big fans of here on the channel, and they definitely veer a little bit more on the faster edge compared to some other similar super trainers. Now, if you're trying to decide between these two shoes, then you have come to the right place. Now, what we're going to do is take you through the key differences between the two shoes first, and then myself and Tom will get you into our running experience with both of them, and then let you know whether you should go for the Adidas Prime X 2.0 Strung or the Asics Superblast 2. So here's the key things you need to know about how the Asics Superblast 2 and the Adidas Prime X 2.0 Strung match up. Let's start with price, and the Prime X 2.0 Strung is the more expensive of the two shoes, both in the UK and the US. Along with the bigger price, the Adidas shoe also weighs in the heavier, coming in at 296 grams compared to 259 grams on the Superblast 2 in a UK men's size 8. There's a difference in drops, with the Superblast 2 offering an 8mm one compared to a 6.5mm one on the Prime X 2.0 Strung. There's big stack heights on both of these shoes, though it's bigger on the Adidas shoe at both the heel and at the forefoot. Both offer woven uppers, while at the midsole the Superblast has a layer of FF Blast Turbo Plus and Eco Plus, but doesn't match that with a carbon plate. The Strung features a TPEE based Light Strike Pro midsole with two carbon plates included to give it that more propulsive and racing focused edge. At the outsole, Asics employs its AHA Plus hybrid one, while Adidas opts for a continental rubber outsole to ensure strong traction across a range of surfaces.
The fit for me in the Superblast 2 and the Prime X2 Strung. I'm a size 8 in the UK. The Superblast 2 is a little bit shorter for me than the original Superblast. I said with the original Superblast that you might want to size down half a size. I don't think that's the case with Superblast 2. I think it's spot on for sizing. It's quite a comfortable shoe. It doesn't have a fit like a race shoe. It's more like a more conventional training shoe, so it's a little bit roomier in the forefoot, and as a result it's quite a comfortable shoe. There's plenty of padding in it as well, so I would stay to my size in the Superblast 2. In the Prime X2 Strung, the shoe has a different fit than the Superblast. It's a little bit racier, it's a little bit more like what you'd expect from an Adidas shoe. Quite often with Adidas shoes I find them to be quite tight in the UK, so often it's worth looking half a size up in Adidas shoes. I didn't have that much of a problem with the X2 Strung. What I found is that the fit is a bit better than it was in the previous version. I got really bad heel rub on the previous version and I basically couldn't wear it. Whereas this does seem to be a bit more comfortable. It doesn't have a lot of padding in it, but I didn't have any issues with the shoe. I would still say it's a pretty lean shoe when it comes to spacing. So for some people, you might want to size up half a size, but in comparison to lots of other Adidas shoes, it is a little bit roomier, so you may be fine, but take that in consideration because it is an Adidas shoe. But I would still stay to my size in this shoe because I've used it quite a lot now and I've had no issues.
So in terms of fit, I've had both of these shoes in the UK at size 8. That's my typical running shoe size, and generally going true to size in Asics and Adidas shoes has been fine on my pretty narrow, skinny feet. Now, aside from maybe kind of addressing some initial kind of lacing lockdown things in my kind of initial testing of these shoes, generally the experience has been very good on both of these. I've been very happy with the space up front of the toes, particularly when these are going to be shoes potentially you are going to run a little bit longer in and you want that little bit of space there without it feeling overly roomy. It's been absolutely fine. The midfoot hold has been very good. As I said, once I kind of addressed the lacing kind of, setups here, the heel lockdown has been very good for me overall once I've, run a little bit longer in these shoes. Now, obviously, the nature of these uppers do dictate the kind of fits you're going to get here. Now, with the Prime X 2.0 Strung, it's a lot skinnier, a lot thinner, a little bit more racing style in terms of the upper, a little bit more challenging to get into this upper, I would say as well too. But once you're in, it really does lock you in and give you that kind of racing kind of style, kind of upper feel. The tongue is a kind of integrated one. No, not the kind of these kind of stretchy kind of sock-like ones I absolutely love, but I have found that it's worked for me the longer I've kind of spent running in the shoe. Whereas the Superblast 2, a little bit more of a traditional upper, I would say, a little bit more kind of general padding and snugness in terms of that fit. You're getting a kind of a gusseted tongue, which is a little bit more padded than the one, obviously, that you're getting in the Prime X 2.0 Strung. But I would say, yeah, true to size has worked for me in both of these shoes. What I would say is that this is a bit more awkward to get into, and once you're in, you are locked in. This is a little bit more accommodating, a little bit more snug fitting in general. If that's something you prefer in a general fit and in a way and upper feels, then that's what you're going to get in the Superblast 2 compared to the Prime X 2.0 Strung. So in terms of my running experience with these two shoes, I would definitely say these are two max stack shoes that definitely have it in their locker to allow you to feel comfortable to run a little bit quicker in them. They're pretty good weights, so this is slightly heavier, but I do think it manages that weight very well despite being a little bit heavier than the Superblast 2. But in terms of the experience overall, you can run quicker in these shoes. And there's not a lot of these kind of max stack super trainers which I think really give you that generally that naturally kind of faster feel in them. In terms of delivering that experience, I do think they're very different, and I think that might separate the types of people that might get on with these shoes. I think in terms of the Superblast 2, and I think I'll talk about fit, I think most people will get on with the fit of this shoe. It's a bit more traditional in that sense, in terms of the upper, in terms of getting this shoe on and getting out and running. And then when you get into the midsole and what Asics has done with the Superblast 2 midsole, a lot of the work is there for you to kind of really carry you through those kind of quicker kind of runs. But I think crucially for me, what you get in the Superblast 2 is that kind of nice transition between faster and slower or the other way. And I think you can comfortably do that without it feeling a little bit jarring. Now the Prime X 2.0 Strung, there's obviously a little bit more going on here. And I would say in terms, you know, you've got those kind of two carbon plates. I think you've got a noticeably a much more stiffer, firmer feel when you are running slower. But when you engage with that midsole, it feels lovely to run quick in. And that's a key thing for me. I think when you are not running at your quickest, and I think for me in my quickest pace or up tempo and faster kind of race pace, then it feels lively, feels energetic, feels propulsive to kind of run in this shoe, but it can feel a little bit more unstable when you are getting up to those quicker paces. Now when I've tried to ease off in this shoe in a run, when I've started off a little bit quicker, it hasn't felt as comfortable to do that, whereas it has done in the Superblast 2. For me, at my easy pace, I have found this a bit more challenging to run at these kind of easy paces that I can do a little bit easier in the Superblast 2. And I think that's a key thing for me here. They do have that kind of faster edge to them, but I think ultimately in terms of how they generate that faster feel, or how they feel to run a bit faster, there definitely is a little bit of a difference in terms of how that experience is delivered. This, I think you really have to engage with the shoe to get that kind of really nice feeling out of it. With this, I think there's a lot going on there already when you kind of get into it, and it's just rolling you forward really purposefully and really nicely. And when you're running a little bit quicker, it is a lighter shoe. It feels very nice to run a little bit more up tempo in this shoe, and it just doesn't feel awkward to do that. I think with the Prime X 2.0 Strung, it's naturally the faster feeling shoe when you kind of get going in it, but when I've eased off in it and I've tried to run slower in it, it doesn't feel like that's what it's built for. So it's really about maintaining that pace over longer distances, over your duration of your run. And what you'll get is something really special from the shoe. Whereas I think with this shoe, I think if you need to mix it up in a run, then it feels more comfortable to do that in. Outsole wise, gripping wise, I think you're getting a little bit more rubber on the Superblast 2, and it would say to me that probably you're going to get a little bit more life out of it. There's not a huge amount of rubber on this Prime X 2.0 Strung outsole. The gripping and traction in general has been fine for me, but I would say if you're probably doing a little bit of lighter trail work, then this would be more suited to doing that as opposed to this. This is really one built for the roads to run on, whereas I think you could probably wander off away from the pavements and it would be absolutely fine on this shoe. So that might be a slight difference for people that may sway you over one or the other, but I do think ultimately these are nice shoes to run quick in. Two of the best kind of max stack super trainers that I've run in, but I do think there's some differences in terms of that experience which may shape whether this shoe is going to be better for you or this shoe is.
So the run test for me in these two shoes, in many ways they're quite similar. They've got quite big stack heights. They're designed for faster training. They're designed for tempo runs, all those sorts of things, and you can essentially race in them as well. Big difference comes between these two shoes in the fact that the Adidas has two plates in it, and that does affect the ride noticeably when you compare the two shoes. The Superblast 2 is a fantastic shoe, very comfortable shoe that really can be used for lots of different runs. It skews more towards the longer distance tempo efforts and is very, very good for that. You get a lovely rolling action for it. It's a very smooth run. It's not particularly bouncy. but it's just a very efficient, smooth turnover that means you can really maintain a nice pace, especially if you're doing things like marathon training and stuff like that. I used the original Superblast for a lot of my previous marathon training, and it was great for those 25k, 30k runs at marathon pace where you just need to clock a consistent pace comfortably and with a really nice action. The Adidas is similar in the way that it works very well for those longer runs. It is effectively a race shoe that can't be used for races by competitive athletes because of the 50mm stack height. But you do notice the difference in the shoe is a lot bouncier than the Superblast 2. The combination of those plates with the Light Strike Pro midsole foam really does make it a bouncy, propulsive shoe. And you sort of bound along in it. It's very enjoyable. It really feels like it's giving you a lot of energy back. In comparison to the previous Prime X, it's has a much wider base on it. It's a much more stable shoe. I really struggled with the first shoe because I raced in it a couple of times and there were potholes and I was turning corners and it really felt very wobbly. It was a very, very thin base on the shoe and you really noticed it with that stack height. That's largely been fixed in the new shoe. It still has the same level of stack height, but the wider base does make for a big difference when it comes to the running, and it also has a more structured base on the shoe that doesn't have loads of cutouts on it, which was a problem for me on the previous one. So it's a much more stable shoe. It's a much more accessible shoe now, I think. For a lot of people, it's still quite a lot of stack height. You can feel the stack height in the Prime X2. It's not so noticeable in the Superblast. You don't necessarily feel like you've got a massive stack height in the Superblast because of the way that the shoe's built. So if you want something a bit more stable, a bit more conventional feeling, you probably want to go for the Superblast 2 over the Prime X2 because it is a bit of a weird feeling shoe. And if you're not used to that sort of stack height, you're not used to that sort of bounce, it may not be for you, but I really enjoy both of these shoes. I think they're great fun to run in. I think they're great for faster training and tempo sessions and things like that, and they're very comparable in the way that they run. It just really comes down to that propulsive performance feel from those plates and the midsole foam in the Prime X2 Strung that make it a different shoe. I think the Superblast 2 is just a lot more accessible for people, and I think most people could run in that shoe, whereas this shoe, I think it's an acquired taste for a lot of people, and I know many people that would hate this shoe because of the stack height and those plates and everything in it, because it does give a very noticeable feeling of bounce and propulsion that not everyone likes. So my verdict on these two shoes, and I haven't got them both here because Mike's stolen my Superblast 2s to do his videos. I would say that if you're looking for a faster training shoe that can cover quite a lot, I think both shoes you could do easier runs in. They're not designed for that. I think they're better at the tempo long distance efforts. The Prime X2 Strung is quite a bulky shoe. It's probably not really great for shorter distance races and things like that. The Superblast 2 is a bit lighter, but it's still not great for the shorter stuff. I think it's still quite a chunky shoe. They really come into their own when you're doing those longer sessions and you want to maintain a consistent effort, whether that's marathon training, whether you're just going out for long runs and you want to run at a nice clippy pace. Both shoes are fantastic for that. I think it really comes down to the feel of the shoes. Superblast 2 is a much more conventional feeling, normal shoe. It doesn't feel like it's doing anything out of the ordinary. It's just got a really smooth, enjoyable pace. It's not the softest shoe around. So it's quite a nice shoe that you can use for lots of different things. And I think most people will get on with that shoe. The Prime X2 is a bit of an alien shoe. It feels so much fun when you're running in it. You really feel like you're bouncing along and you're saving all this energy, despite the fact that it's not the lightest shoe in the world. But that's not for everyone. So if I was to choose between these two shoes, I think I would go for the Superblast 2, just because I think that it's just got more things that it can do in a much more comfortable and accessible way. I think the Prime X2 is a more enjoyable shoe, but I don't think it's going to be great for everyone. I think I'm more likely to use the Superblast 2 for a lot more runs as part of my training block than I am the Prime X2 Strung. And they're both very expensive shoes, so if you're going to choose between the two of them, you want to get the right one for your style of running. But if you really just want fun and bounce and that feeling of propulsion from all the technology that this shoe's got in it, then go for the Prime X2. But I'm going to pick the Superblast 2 for my type of running.
So my take on whether you should go for the Prime X 2.0 Strung or the Asics Superblast 2. Now the way I look at it between these two max stack super trainers is if you're looking for the one that I think is the most accessible in terms of being a shoe that most people will be able to feel comfortable running quicker in and easing off in, I think it's this shoe, and I think ultimately I think it's very clear that this is a more versatile shoe, and it's going to be a more versatile shoe for more people, I think. Now, with the Prime X 2.0 Strung, it definitely naturally is the more faster feeling max stack super trainer. And I think when you do run faster in it, it does feel noticeably a little bit more lively than the Superblast 2 at those kind of really top quicker paces. What I found is when you've eased off in this shoe, want to do easy runs in it, it definitely feels a little bit more of an awkward character to do that. Now, if you can, or depending on what your easy pace is, you might feel like that's absolutely fine. But for me, I found that it's a little bit more awkward, and the versatility that I think you get here in the Superblast 2 isn't quite there for me on the Prime X 2.0 Strung. So for me, if you are looking for a max stack super trainer that feels fast over longer distance and at faster paces, then I would be going for this. If you want something that you can run quicker in, but you can also ease off in, and you're getting that protection and comfort over those longer miles as well, and I think it's going to fit better for most people, I think you should go for the Superblast 2. Okay, so there you have it. That's our take on how the Adidas Prime X 2.0 Strung compares to the Asics Superblast 2. Now, if you've got any questions about this video or either of these shoes, do let us know in the comments. As always, like and subscribe, hit that little bell to find out about our latest videos, and yeah, we'll see you for the next Run Testers video.